What's up guys? Today is going to be a Q&A style video. I really like doing these and I posted on my Instagram story. You guys sent me your questions, so I'll be answering them in this video. By the way, if you guys don't follow me yet on Instagram, then make sure you do. Check it out here and let's get to it. First up, there is a question on whether travel funds should be in ASB or somewhere else. And then the second part to this question is, aside from ASB, are there any other options that we should consider? So answer to the first question, yes, travel funds should be put into relatively low risk or safer investments, low volatility, because we will need it in the short term. So for any cash that you need in the short term, this should always be your sort of goal in terms of what you're looking for. You don't want to get to the point where your holiday is coming up, the stock market crashes, and then you sell and withdraw and you realize you have to downgrade your hotel. Second part. First up, I just want to mention that ASB is not guaranteed. There are not many investments out there that are guaranteed in returns. But yeah, let's address it. So I think you can do a mixture of ASB and other investments or other platforms for your emergency funds, because when it comes to our emergencies, we still want to make sure that it's extremely liquid, at least a portion of it. So how I would do this is I would put maybe 50% into ASB and then 50% into things like digital banks where we can get 3%. The returns won't be as high, but at least we have access to immediate cash if we need it. If you guys want to look elsewhere aside from ASB, or let's say you are not eligible for ASB, you can also consider money market funds. Most of them still pay around 3.5 to 4% returns. Next up, a question on savings for your kids. So this is actually a really good question. It's something that I am considering doing in the future if I have kids. But yeah, the idea here is to sort of build up a savings nest egg for your kids so that by the time they hit college age, at least you already have the cash ready. Anyway, I think SSPN is a really good idea for this, purely because of the tax relief. I think tax relief of up to 8,000 ringgit is huge. So let's say your tax bracket is in the 20%. 20% of 8K means 1,600 ringgit saved in taxes. So I would maximize this first. When we look at returns of SSPN, it's not that bad as well. For 2024, they paid out 4.05%. Otherwise, I would put most of my kids' savings into stocks. Actually, I wouldn't really put it into something like ASB because our kids are so young, right? They have such a long-term horizon before they need access to the cash. And when we're talking about the long-term, opposite of the travel fund, we can then put it into higher risk investments with potentially higher rewards. So I would invest into robo-advisors like Stashaway, for example, or I would create a separate brokerage account, for example, on Moomoo, and just start investing there for them. Moving on, another interesting question about how to feel okay spending on a big ticket item. So you know how they say, or there's this saying in personal finance that, if you spend 10 ringgit on a coffee, you are being stupid, because if you invested that money and let it compound, it will become like 100 ringgit or something like that by the time you retire. So that is true, right? If you compound this money, it will become a lot more by the time you retire. But at the same time, I think you still need to enjoy today. Look, I bought a watch and it did set me back in the 5 figures. And the first time that I did that, it actually felt a lot more difficult because, similar to you, I felt like, how can I spend this much money on something that isn't going to grow, like if I were to put it into the stock market? But in my opinion, at least, if you have your savings and investments sorted out, then by all means, just go for it. But to me, personally, when I go for big ticket items, I prefer to buy things that will at least hold its value okay-ish. And that is why I went for watches, and that is why I wouldn't buy things like cars or, high-end designer clothes. But again, that's just me. It's completely up to you. If you have the money, if it's not going to change your life, then just do it. One way to feel completely guilt-free about making purchases like this is that you should start a separate sort of sinking fund for this item. So let's say you really want to buy a watch as well. Every month, contribute towards this, and when you hit the goal, buy that watch, because this way at least you can spend guilt-free. You know that you spent time saving money for this and all your commitments are still sorted out. Now, next question is on how to DCA, and there's also a question about how to invest with the ringgit strengthening, which to me is actually quite related. So first up, on how to DCA, the usual strategy people use is that they will use the same amount of money every single month to invest. So if it's 500 ringgit a month, then invest 500 ringgit regardless of how many units it's going to buy you. So the reason that we want to do this is that when prices are low, we want to make sure that we get to buy more units. And when prices are high, we want to buy less units. This is how we get a good average price. To be honest, I've never heard of anyone DCAing with the same amount of units every single month. So yeah, just keep it simple, invest the same amount of money every single month. Then we go into investment strategies concerning, the strengthening ringgit. So yes, it is painful. That's the first thing I want to say. Even for me, my US dollar portfolio is really hurting a lot, right? It's down nearly 20% over the last 1 year. But my plan is to just continue investing, continue my DCA. Just like how we DCA, sometimes we buy stocks low, sometimes we buy stocks high. It is the same with our currency as well. Sometimes we'll buy at 4.8 ringgit per dollar. Now we're buying at 3.9 ringgit per dollar. Over time, you should get a pretty decent average. One thing that we need to know is that yes, it feels good now as a Malaysian, but currencies move in cycles. It won't just straight go up or down in a single line. Sometimes the USD will be strong, sometimes the USD will be weak. So yeah, just keep investing. Now, another very interesting question at least, and it's on the big rises in AI and gold and whether I think this is a bubble. So of course, this is just my opinion. So gold, of course, is legit. It is a safe haven. When people are panicking, people will buy gold. And I'm sad that I didn't buy more. But I also think that it's a bubble that is going to pop. So just like any other commodity in the world, right? We've seen this before in cocoa, we've seen this before in palm oil, in crude oil. Whenever there is a huge spike, prices always come back down. That is just how it works, supply and demand, right? And if you think that gold is not a normal commodity, it should be compared more to something like Bitcoin. Then just look at where Bitcoin is today, right? It can't just go up in a straight line forever. If you're talking about 20, 30, 40 years, then yeah, maybe it will go up higher than it is today. But if you're talking about over the next, 6 months to a year, I do think that a correction should be coming. I think, and I hope you guys don't screenshot this one day in the future and send this to me in a DM, but I think that the AI bubble will pop, similar to what we saw during 2000 for the dot-com crash. Don't get me wrong, I think AI is legit. I use AI and I've seen the many things that they can now do, but I also do think that valuations have just gotten way ahead of what it can actually do, right? I still think that it's probably going to be positive long-term, but it needs to chill a bit. Okay, now we have some questions on taking profits and cutting losses when it comes to my investments. So on taking profits, I generally don't do it for my long-term investing portfolio because I prefer to just leave my money in there and just let it compound over the long term. I have tried timing the markets before, right? I thought that markets would drop more after the Trump tariffs, but look what happened. I didn't manage to buy back in and now prices are way higher. So nowadays, I just keep myself invested for ever, I guess, until I need the money. The one exception that I would do this is if there is a huge spike, a parabolic move in my investment. So for example, gold right now, I did take my profits. On cutting losses, I think a lot of people are in pain when it comes to crypto, including myself. Bitcoin itself is down, 30, 40%. So my strategy when it comes to cutting losses is simple. Imagine if you had no position in Bitcoin right now, and you're looking at the current price of $72,000, $73,000, would you buy or not? If the answer is no, you wouldn't buy, then there's your answer. It's time to cut your losses. Next question, we have someone asking, how do you choose funds for KWSP I Invest? So for those of you guys who don't know, you can actually invest your EPF funds into different funds if you want to. And I want to say that for most people, this is not worth the hassle. Just leave your money in EPF because their returns, their risk reward is just fantastic. But if you really want to do it, then to me, it only makes sense if you invest into funds that are higher risk with potentially higher reward. If you were to invest in, let's say, fixed income, where it's stable and they just give you a steady dividend every single month, then to me, there's no point. You may as well just leave it in EPF because, like I said, they do an amazing job already. But when it comes to choosing which high-risk fund, which high-return fund, then that's completely up to you. I can't really say. So I did go for a global fund before, I think around 2020, but since then I've already sold it and moved it back to EPF. My strategy right now is that I will just leave this money here unless we see a huge stock market crash. So let's say the S&P 500, the US stock market drops by 30, 40%, then yes, I will consider going into KWSP I Invest again and buying to another global fund. But these things, they don't really happen very often. So until that happens, I'll just leave it in EPF and enjoy the dividends. So last question for today's video will be about my trading journey. So I did start trading a while ago. It's something that I've always been interested in. So I started learning all of this through YouTube. I think there's actually a lot of really good resources there. And I also joined some of these training, mentoring classes to learn specific strategies. I think the best thing that you can do as a beginner is to just find someone that you like, watch the videos and learn your strategy and then just stick to that strategy, even if it doesn't work for a while. My biggest mistake was that, thinking that a strategy should always work forever. So as soon as it doesn't work, I'll change to another strategy. And then in the end, I just keep flip-flopping and I never really learn. And trading to me is truly something that you can only really learn and build mastery through, thousands of hours just looking at the screen. Then you develop a gut feel almost, and that's how you become consistently profitable. There is no holy grail. There is no special strategy that's going to make you profitable over the long run. You just have to stick to it and learn. Of course, then I joined Bursa's Futures Trading Apprenticeship Program, or FTAP, and ever since then, I'm now a full-time trader. They will have more intakes coming up this year, so keep your eyes peeled and make sure you apply if you guys are interested in trading. So that's it for today's video. I hope you guys enjoyed it, and I hope you guys learned from this as well. Thanks so much for watching till the end. Give me a huge thumbs up if you enjoyed it and subscribe to my channel if you haven't already. If any of you guys want to sign up for a platform like Moomoo to invest in global stocks, use the link in the description of this video to get some freebies when you sign up. See you guys in the next one. Peace out.